Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Mike. I am the Crypto Liberal. Thanks for joining me again today. If you find anything in this video that's redeeming or valuable or funny or whatever, give me a like, give me a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I'm trying to build my community and share my journey with you, and I love hearing about your journey. So give me a like, give me a subscribe. Today, I got a little bit of hopium for you, and probably the worst case scenario that we could face in the next few months. And so if the worst case scenario, it's not good. If it scares you, maybe you should turn the channel right now, but don't do that. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Personally, I don't think we're going to face that worst case scenario. So stick with me because it is the worst case scenario. And I don't think we're going to get there, but it's nice to know that it exists, that there's a floor. And I honestly think we're not going to go below that floor. So let's get into it. You want to start with the hopium? Let's start with the hopium. So Twitter today, Santiment tweeted this, I don't know when, I retweeted it. So they tweeted it yesterday, it looks like at midnight or something. Anyway, they said Bitcoin's supply in exchanges has dropped rapidly. After an uptick of panic sells in early May, this is indicative of holders who stuck with BTC through its downfall, being content with volatile markets at this point and willing to ride it out. And they tweeted a chart with it. So this chart, right, shows how much Bitcoin is being taken off of exchanges. And this little note here, 0.6 of Bitcoin supply has moved off exchanges in just the past 5 days alone. So why is that a little bit of hopium? Well, people are panic selling right now. People are panic selling their Bitcoin. And that, so it's moving from soft hands to strong hands, right? To weak hands to strong hands. And so those strong hands are taking it off exchanges and putting it in cold storage, and you might not see that Bitcoin for years. Maybe you'll never see it. Maybe it's going to their kids, and so that's a little bit of hopium, right? I mean, that's what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to pass along some crypto to my daughter, in when I'm long gone, right? And so maybe that Bitcoin never comes out again. That's a little bit of hopium, but maybe the more realistic reason that people are moving Bitcoin off of exchanges is the whole liquidity crisis that we're facing, right? These big money institutions that are going under because they're greedy. I mean, it's pure unadulterated greed that these exchanges or these big money institutions are failing, is because they're greedy, and that's really what is I think pushing a lot of people to pull money off of exchanges before those exchanges halt withdrawals, like Celsius, right? Celsius, I have so much sympathy and empathy for people that have their coins on Celsius because you can't get at them. And when Celsius finally allows you to withdraw them, months from now or maybe even years from now, it will only be a fraction of the coins that those people have on Celsius. So that just a disastrous situation for people that have their coins. I'm fortunate enough not to face that circumstance, and I feel for those people, but that might be some of the reason that Bitcoin's leaving the exchange. And, speaking of that, right? So talking about Bitcoin, right? And the greed, I had this support line here, and in full disclosure, I said, I put the support line here before I even reached it back here. I started my channel 6 weeks ago. It was about May 8th or May 9th that I started the channel. And it was about that time that I drew this support line, this middle red line. I drew it and I said, I don't think we're gonna go below it. And I stuck to that, all the way until, about June 11th, when we got down to it again. And I said, I'm not so confident anymore. And it was sure enough, it was the next day that we broke it. And then, the next day, June 13th here, we wicked up to the support line, now serving as resistance, and just got dumped on, right? And rejected huge. And we've been going down ever since. And now we're sitting about 19,000. But, I think the whole reason we broke that support line, first of all, is because of this greed. Because people, these institutions, are gambling with their customer crypto. They're gambling with it. And it's not unlike the financial crisis of 2008, which was totally led by greedy financial institutions. So we've taken the worst part of the legacy financial system and incorporated it into crypto. And that's not why I'm in crypto. I'm in crypto because I think crypto can change the world for the better, make humankind better, make the world better, improve employment opportunities, improve healthcare, improve access to banking products, access to financial products, access to the internet. And I've talked repeatedly on this channel of how that's being done. For example, on Cardano. Cardano, I've said on this channel, you want a girlfriend or a boyfriend who tries to improve themselves, make themselves better, experiments. Experiment is a nice part of having a boyfriend or girlfriend. You don't want one that just lies there. To me, Bitcoin just lies there. It's great. It's a stable coin to me. Bitcoin's a stable coin, and to me, it will go up from here. But it just lies there. It doesn't try to improve itself. It doesn't try to adapt, experiment, make the world a better place necessarily, like Cardano does. And Cardano's doing all those things that I mentioned. There's products being built on it that will improve, that will connect the unconnected. Billions of people across the world don't have access to the internet. Well, that's being done on Cardano. And that will give people access to financial products that they don't have today, right? That will allow them to make their lives better, give them employment opportunities to reach the entire world. Their entire world will be customers, potential customers, and as opposed to right now, those people who don't have access to the internet. Their potential customers for any company they build is maybe their tiny village of 10 people, but they get access to the internet. All of a sudden, they have billions of people they could reach as customers. It'll give them access to financial products that they don't have today, because they could get microloans that they could start a company with. They could get a microloan from somebody in the United States, where as right now, they don't have any financial products. They're stuffing, if they have money, they're putting it under a mattress. It's being built on Cardano. Giving them access to the internet will improve their access to healthcare. Will improve voting potentially, right? Make voting more secure, more fair, more equitable. Give access to voting to people that don't have it today. So that's why I'm the crypto liberal. That's why I support Cardano. But to me, so that getting back to the chart, the BTC chart, that's why we broke down from this support line. It's the greed, right? It's the greed in the system that we brought over from the legacy financial system and brought into crypto. Why would we do that? So don't invest in crypto if you're just looking for. I want to make money. I want to make money in ADA and Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I want to invest in something that's going to change the world. So let's get back to the chart, and my whole explanation or reason for getting into that is that's why I think we broke down below this support line that I told you for over 30 days we wouldn't break. And the other reason was, right, is I looked at it from an odds perspective. When I started this channel 6 weeks ago, everybody and their mother and their aunt and sister and brother and kid was saying we're going to go down to 20, 21, 22,000. And then we're, because we have to touch the 200-week moving average. It's been done every time. We have to do it. And then after we get to those levels, we'll break up and we'll go up from there and settle new all-time highs. Well, from an odds perspective, to me, the big money is never going to let that happen. That's what I was thinking, right? Is you had three options. The most likely option to me, because of all the institutional involvement over the last couple of years, right? All the ETFs across the world, Australia, Canada, Europe, not the United States, unfortunately. The institutional involvement from MicroStrategy, Tesla, others, GPTC, just thousands and thousands of Bitcoin that are soaked up by institutions across the world now. I thought, well, that changed the narrative. So looking at it from an odds perspective, everybody's expecting one thing, that the big money is not going to let that happen. So then you had two choices left. The most obvious one to me is that we'd never get down to those levels because of all that institutional involvement. But the second most likely scenario was we would go down to 20, 21, 22, hang out there for a few days, maybe a month, and then crash further. Unfortunately, that's the scenario that happened. My second most likely scenario, right? I told you the least likely one is we're going to go to 20, 21, 22, and then go up from there. That was never in the cards. Unfortunately, the institutional involvement that I was just talking about didn't keep us from going down to those levels. In fact, it was those institutions, the greedy, flippin' institutions, that caused us to go to those levels. So now we're faced with, what's the worst case scenario? If these institutions keep falling, keep gambling our crypto, your crypto, right? These exchanges keep gambling, lending out your crypto. What's the worst case scenario? Let's say we have a couple more insolvencies, you know, Three Arrows, Celsius, Terra Luna. They've just destroyed the market for us. Let's say we have a few more. What's the worst case scenario? Well, let's look at the chart. So if you look at my chart here, right, we have 3 descending red lines. Can you see it on my chart? 3 descending red lines. Look, we just opened a new weekly candle or daily candle just as I'm recording this. But the first thing I want you to notice is these 3 red lines, how far apart they are, how equidistant they are apart. So this first one, the upper one, is right now at, you know, $44,000, let's say. This middle one is at $27,000. So that's a difference of $17,000 between the middle line and the upper line, right? And then how about the bottom one? Bottom one is right now about $9,000. So that's about $18,000 between the middle and the bottom line. I didn't just draw those because they happen to be $17,000 apart each. It just worked out that way. And wait till you see this, because these lines have served so perfectly as support and resistance for 18 months. 18 months is crazy. But I think it's amazing that we're in these 2 descending channels, and we have been for 18 months. And both of the channels serve as, at various times, as support and resistance. And it's just amazing to me that they're both about $17,000, $18,000 apart. So let's check it out. Let's check it out, because this is amazing to me. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Charts are beautiful, but it's amazing to me how amazingly accurate they can be. So right, for the last month, the middle line has served as support until we broke it, right? But then look at going back further, the upper line served as perfect resistance March of this year. Look at that, perfect resistance, beautiful, right? And the middle line, again, support. We wicked down to it in February of this year. Middle line, support, January of this year. Look at that, perfect. Again, top line, resistance, December of last year, perfect resistance. We were above it for a little bit, right? This is when we set our all-time highs back in November, but after we set the all-time high, we came down to the upper line again, perfect support. Look at that, it bounced up for about 7 days before we broke it. Okay, so again, the upper line before we broke it served as resistance here in October of last year. Again, before that, the middle line, perfect support in September of last year. Look at that, perfect support. Again, wicked down to it as support here in earlier September of last year. Again, as support here in August, throughout August of last year. Before that, before we had broken it as, you know, before it served as support here in August, we were below it and it came up, the price came up and hit it as resistance. Look at that, and got rejected off of it for about a week. But it served as resistance in July of last year. And now here's where that bottom line comes in. Look at this. Support from July, look at this, back to June of last year, back to earlier in June of last year, back to May of last year. That lower line served perfectly as support. And then, okay, back to the middle line, served as support here in April of last year. Then the upper line again served as resistance in April of last year. The middle line again served as support in March of last year. The middle line served as resistance in March of last year. And then, you know, back here, before we ever really got to the all-time highs for the first time, when we were first breaking up, look at this. Look at this. The bottom line again, before we ever surpassed it the first time, served as resistance here in February, served as resistance here in January, served as resistance earlier in January. So look at that. That bottom line has perfectly served as resistance back here in January, throughout January and February of 2021. Then when we had the big liquidation event, after we got to 65,000 that first time in May of last year, all the way through July, that line, that bottom line, has served as support. And then we haven't seen it again. We still haven't seen it, but now I'm fearful that we will see it, right? So now we're pretty much halfway between the middle line and the bottom line. If we get a bunch more liquidations, it's nice to know that this bottom line is down here, right? It's nice to know that I don't think we're going to go to 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, but is 8,000 something in play? Possibly. Possibly. I don't think that'll happen. But if these flippin' greedy people, these greedy flippin' institutions, I'm trying not to swear because it ticks me off, right? If we go down to those levels, it's going to be because of these greedy flippin' people. And again, there's a lot of fighting going on Twitter right now between Bitcoin maxis and saying, well, you need to get your crypto off of exchanges. Well, this is largely built on the Bitcoin maxis. All they talk about is price, how much money you're going to make in crypto. They're all speculating. That's all that they're involved in Bitcoin for, is to well, first of all, stick it to the man, and second of all, to make money. They're not. You honestly think these people are in crypto, in Bitcoin, so that the little man in Africa can make money? The little man in Africa, or in the United States, or anywhere in the world, a guy with no money is not investing in Bitcoin to make money. If they got Bitcoin, they're going to spend it. What actually will improve their lives is giving them access to the internet, right? I'm not a biblical person, but it's teaching them how to fish, not giving them fish. You give somebody $50 in Bitcoin like they did in El Salvador. What do they get? What's a poor man going to do? What's a poor woman going to do? A poor family going to do? They're going to spend it. And then that Bitcoin's going to end up in the hands of the president of El Salvador, right? Somebody that needs money is not going to invest their Bitcoin. What you need to do is you need to get those people online. Give them access to financial products that they didn't have before. Give them access to healthcare that they didn't have before. Give them access to customers that they don't have. That will change the world. That will make the world a better place. That's being done on Cardano. Don't invest in a boyfriend, girlfriend who just lies there, who won't experiment, who doesn't work at getting better every day, who won't adapt. Invest in a boyfriend, girlfriend who does all of those things. So speaking of Cardano, let's check that out, right? So I've been doing this channel for about 6 weeks, and I've been telling you for 6 weeks that new money today put into Cardano, to ADA, will outperform Ethereum and Bitcoin by the end of the year, a year from now, and 5 years from now. And any new money put into ADA and Ethereum will outpace Bitcoin in those same timeframes. And I've set out to prove my work, show my work, prove my prediction, right? I've gotten in trouble on Twitter. I've been blocked by people because they were posting that in the past few weeks, don't put new money in alts because Bitcoin is destroying them. And I said, and I retweeted that and I said, if people make these predictions on Twitter, ask them to prove it. And this person proved it by pointing to the chart from 7 months ago. And I said, you can't prove it. What your statement today is by pointing to something 7 months ago, because you're saying you can't put new money into ADA today because it won't outperform Bitcoin. You don't point to 7 months ago. You start proving it today. If you say that today, prove it today. And that's what I'm trying to do, right? So every week, I started this channel 6 weeks ago. I prove it by showing my work on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at @crypto_liberal, and on YouTube. I show you. We're investing $100 each week into ADA, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. And I show you every week, this is how much we're buying with the $100. This is how much we're getting. And this is what our portfolio looks like in each of those coins. Every week, I show it on Twitter and on YouTube. And I will prove it to you. I will prove my hypothesis to you. I might be wrong, right? This is not financial advice. I'm not always right, as proven by my support line that didn't hold. But I will prove it to you either way. And so and those people on Twitter block me because they don't want to prove it. They want to make a statement and then hope you forget about it. Prove it. If you say that you put new money into alts today is a bad idea, then adopt some sort of method to prove that your prediction is accurate. And when I said on Twitter that if anybody's making these predictions, ask them to prove it, that person blocked me, right? So I'm proving it. And how am I proving it? By every week showing you what we're doing. So here's our portfolio in each of those coins, right? And I said ADA will outperform Ethereum and Bitcoin by the end of the year. Well, I don't even need to the end of the year. I don't need to the end of the year because look at ADA right now. We put $600 into each of these, and this is fictional money, right? I'm not actually putting $100 in each of these each week because I'm not putting new money into Bitcoin right now for reasons that will become apparent. But and I dollar cost average every Friday into ADA mostly right now. But I'm proving my work. I'm proving my statements to you. And so we put $600 of fictional money into each of these. And look at ADA, 494. We've lost money in all of them, but ADA's only down $105. Bitcoin's down $210. And Ethereum's even, it's lagging that, right? I told you Ethereum's going to outpace Bitcoin, but I got till the end of the year to prove it. But look at, I mean, ADA is crushing the other two. And ADA is further ahead of Bitcoin than Bitcoin is ahead of Ethereum. Like, right? ADA's up by $105. Bitcoin's only over Ethereum by what, 70? Not 65, right? Not that far behind. So again, ask people to prove the statements they make. If they can't or won't or refuse, then really should you be following them? And again, don't listen to anybody on Twitter, including myself, unless they're willing to prove it, unless they're willing to admit their mistakes, and don't listen to people that are trying to get you to click their links so they can get a kickback. Don't do it. Don't trade on leverage. The big money is getting liquidated. You think you stand a chance? Don't lose your hard-earned money. Dollar cost average, buy and hold. And in fact, if you do that, I'll prove it to you. Again, I'm proving it. I'm showing my work. I'll prove it to you that you don't need leverage. You don't need to even put new money in. Let's say you have a Bitcoin today. I'll show you. I'm proving to you right now that you can turn, if you have one Bitcoin today, you can turn that into 1.3 Bitcoin in a week. And I'll show you how I've already proven that, right? So let's go to that ADA chart. So Bitcoin, right? What are we at right now? And we're at 18.9. It's not moving. We're kind of stuck in no man's land here. So 18.9, yep. Okay, so let's go to the ADA chart. So ADA BTC chart. So if you're new to the channel, I do the ADA BTC chart and I look at it on Coinbase. And the first thing I do is I look at the weekly. So I have some support lines coming up here, but before we look at that, so again, the weekly chart. I'm not trading the 15-minute chart, the hourly chart, the 4-hourly chart even. Not even the daily chart. So I'm trading bigger trends. I'm not trying to get out of this trade in a month, in a week, in a month, a week, a month, 3 months even. It might not even be 6 months. It might be a year before I get out of this trade. But like I said, I'm trading longer term trends. And my suggestion is that that's what you do. Because if you will get chopped up if you try to trade daily. If you try to get in and out daily, you will get chopped up and this won't work for you. But look at this ADA, what we discussed. So I told you back here on the week of May 30th, right? When one ADA was worth 0.000019 Bitcoin. Right there, when we were right below this downward sloping trend line. See this downward or descending wedge right here, right? That we've been in since August of last year. 10 months. Descending wedge, this upper red line, this resistance line. I told you right here in this week, right when we were below that resistance line, I said, look, we're going to break it. And if we break it, ADA's going to go on a tear. And sure enough, the next week, right, we had a little bit of a red week. We wicked up kind of big, but we had a little bit of a red week, but we closed right on top of that resistance line. And this week, look at this. Let's make this a little bigger. Look at this. This week, we wicked down right on top of that resistance line, now turned support. And then what's happened since this week? We are up. Huge, right? Now that 0.000019 Bitcoin has turned into 0.000024 Bitcoin. And what is that? This is the best part. So when I calculated it this morning, it was almost 30% up in a week. And so last Sunday when the market really started crashing, Ethereum and ADA were down a lot more than Bitcoin. And I made a special video last Sunday night. I got on a second video and I said, hey, I'm taking almost all my Bitcoin and moving it into ADA and Ethereum. and it was about 0.000019 Bitcoin for ADA. And I said, I'm moving almost all of my Bitcoin now into ADA. And as of this morning, you know what it was up? 30%. So let's say you had followed me in last Sunday night, in less than a week, 30% return in less than a week. So you taken, just say 1 Bitcoin and moved it into ADA. All of a sudden you have 1.3 ADA in less than a week. Or 1.3 Bitcoin in less than a week. Say you had moved over 2 Bitcoin. You'd have 2.6 Bitcoin in less than a week. That's without putting any new money into the game. No new money. That's without trading on leverage, right? 30% return, 30% more Bitcoin by simply playing the charts, right? And these are the types of things I want to bring to you. I want to bring to my audience. I want to bring to this journey with you. If you appreciate that, give me a like, give me a subscribe. So how that is amazing, right? And I'm not done yet because I'm waiting for a 30% return, right? I'm waiting until this gets back up to the top of the top of the wedge, the descending wedge, which would put us at 0.00006 Bitcoin. Now I might not keep all the Bitcoin I transferred over into ADA that long. I might take some profits along the way. We'll discuss that on the channel. So follow me, give me a like, give me a subscribe if you want me to share if you want to hear my journey and where I might be pulling some Bitcoin out or some ADA out and putting it back into Bitcoin. But for a large chunk of that, I'm waiting until it gets up to the top of that wedge. And what would that mean? That would mean a 3x. That would mean if you moved one Bitcoin over into ADA, when I said last week, under 0.00002, and it goes to 0.0000, how many zeros? 6, right? That's a 3x. 1 Bitcoin turns into 3 all of a sudden. 2 Bitcoins turns into 6. That's without putting new money into the game. That's without trading on leverage. You do not need to trade on leverage. Play the charts as they're given to you. If you appreciate that, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Now, there are resistance levels, right? I've drawn them, I've put them on here. I got a few on here. So we're coming up on one right here, right? This first blue line. And you can see where it comes from, right? ADA was getting crushed and we had a little relief rally back here in the week of March 21st. And we had a little relief rally, got rejected. So that's where that blue line comes from. There's another one up here, up here from a relief rally back in the week of, what is this? January 10th. So, and there's probably more resistances up higher than that, but I just drew these to start with. So, depending on your own financial situation, your own financial condition, what you need funds for, maybe you want to pull some profits out when we get to this first resistance line at 0.000025, right? And you need to make that decision. I'm not going to make it for you. I'm not going to pull any out at that line in particular, but I wanted to put it on here for you because that might be something you need to consider. So we'll talk about that on this channel. That's my goal, right? Show you resistance lines, and maybe you want to pull it out at that resistance line, and if we get a correction, maybe you want to put it back in. I don't know. Those are decisions you need to make, but I want to give you all the information possible that I can find. So if you appreciate that, give me a like, give me a subscribe. So we'll talk about that on those types of things on this channel. And if you want to join the journey, and I hope you do, click that subscribe button, and we'll beat the system. We'll beat these financial or these big money institutions that are putting us all in jeopardy because we have an inside track on the charts. Okay, so that's the most bullish chart in crypto. There's a second one, and it's again we're going to look at the ETH BTC chart. And again, I'm looking at Coinbase. And again, I'm looking at the weekly. Okay, so as that comes up, now I want to preface this. I'm not as excited. I'm not as pumped. That's why I'm calling it the second most bullish chart in crypto. I'm not as pumped about this one for 2 factors. Well, 1 factor mainly. Well, yeah, 1 factor. The return isn't as big, right? Well, first of all, I'm more excited about Cardano than Ethereum. So maybe there's 2 factors. I'm more excited about Cardano than Ethereum to start with. But the other factor is I don't think the return on this trade is as big. It might get there sooner, So that 3x, right? That 3x I'm talking on ADA, it might take a year for us to get there. It might take longer than a year. This one will be, I think, will be faster, but it will only return about 50%. So let's look at it. If it works out the way I think it's going to work out. So right now we're right on this support line for Ethereum, and it goes back over a year. It goes back to, look at how perfectly this is, December of 2020. It held there, held here, and we're right on it again. We're right on it. I mean, we wicked down below it this week, right? But we've come back right to settle on top of it. And this is exactly, last week is when I told you about this chart, right? At 0.052, so 1 Ethereum equal 0.052 Bitcoin. Now, I told you, the reason I brought that ADA chart to you then, right, is because it was ripe. I didn't tell you about it 6 weeks ago when I started this channel because it wasn't ripe yet, that chart. I told you new money in ADA will outperform by the end of the year, but I waited until the chart was ripe. Well, this ripe on the vine. Wasn't rotten because it hadn't passed. It was perfectly ripe. It wasn't too soon. And that's why I brought it to you, a couple weeks ago, that ADA chart. And that's why I brought this Ethereum one to you last week, because it's perfectly ripe right now. It's at the perfect moment to invest. And I told you at 0.052, right? 0.052 Bitcoin. And right now we're at 0.0526. So we're up a little bit. I mean, we're basically even, right? But it's perfectly ripe right now. It's perfectly ripe. And if we get up to this blue line at 0.076 Bitcoin, that would be about a 50% return. And again, what does that mean? That means you take 1 Bitcoin and put it in today, and it does come to fruition. You turn it into 1 Bitcoin into 1.5 Bitcoin, 2 Bitcoin into 3 Bitcoin. How? Without new money, without any new money in the game, without trading on leverage. We have an inside track by just examining the charts, playing Bitcoin against the superior coins in my mind, right? And then when you get sufficient returns in those superior protocols, then you can put it back into the stable coin that is Bitcoin. That will go up over time, but you're not gonna get the returns you will in ADA and Ethereum, in my opinion. Again, this isn't financial advice. You need to make your own decisions. But it's ripe right now. I didn't bring this to you like the ADA chart. I didn't bring it to you 6 weeks ago. I brought it to you 2 weeks ago. And we had an explosion this week, right? How perfectly timed was that? I didn't bring this chart to you, 2 weeks ago when we were there. I wasn't talking about it there because it wasn't ripe yet. It's ripe right now. But the key for that ETH chart might be the weekly close tomorrow. So follow me on Twitter because I will keep you updated there at @crypto_liberal. We need to finish above that support line. If we don't finish above that support line on the ETH BTC chart, I don't know. I'll have to figure it out what I'm going to do with my own funds that I transferred from Bitcoin into Ethereum. I don't think I'll get out, but it might make me a little more concerned. But if we finish on top of that support line, I'll be more convinced than ever that 50% return is in the offing, and it will happen sooner than that 3x return in ADA. But again, this isn't financial advice. I've been wrong. I proved it today. I was wrong. I showed you I was wrong on that support line. But I'm more right than wrong usually in my experience in my life. I've been more right than wrong. So I might be wrong on both of these.